Hello and welcome, this is Rooflemonger. We have another tips and tricks installment, this time detailing the world warrior himself, Ryu. So as always, going to be going over command normal, specials, super moves and the like. I'm going to be dedicating a whole little section here just to the hurricane kick, because in this game, hurricane kick's actually his most defining move. It's not the fireball, and it's not the shoryuken, it's actually the hurricane kick. And we're going to talk about it a bit more after that as well. So without any further ado, let's get into it. First up for our command normals, we have Seiken Suki, which is actually quite similar to Ryu's target combo in Street Fighter V. So it's light punch, medium punch, or rather, sorry, light punch, heavy punch. I'm now thinking Street Fighter mindset, heavy kick. So it looks like this. So in Street Fighter, it's medium punch, heavy kick. And honestly, outside of the fact that it's cool that he has it, because you know, it's what he has in Street Fighter V, I don't find much value for it. I'd much rather do just, you know, the usual proper magic series than that. It's interesting that's there, but I don't know. Your mileage may vary. Me personally, I'm not a big fan. Now, next up we have Hizagari, which is either light punch or light kick and hit up with forward light kick. So that's this knee right here. So the main thing here is it has quite a bit more hit stun than a regular light attack would. Not as much as a heavy, but besides that, really, its main use is if you really need all the extra hits you can to hit confirm things, then your usual magic series becomes 5 hits instead of 4. So it'd be 4 hits, so it'll make it 5 now. So outside of that, once again, not too much value, and you know, it's going to use up your critical early juncture of damage for your damage scaling. You definitely want your more damaging moves up front as fast as possible before the scaling really kicks in. So it's really there just to make hit confirming just one little iota easier if you do have trouble hit confirming combos. Now, our next command normal we have up here is the Collarbone Breaker. That's forward fierce punch, and this is Ryu's classic overhead. He's had this for over 20 years, and going to keep going strong into the future, I'm very sure. So, as I said, it is an overhead. Now, unfortunately, you can't not special cancel out of it. So, I'm going to try to fireball, nothing comes out. But you are allowed to super cancel out of it. So, if you see it connect, you can go right into a Super Hadouken, or perhaps your Super Hurricane Kick. But one of the main uses here is simply you can do it and tag out. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, in keeping the trend with Ryu classic moves, Sukui, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, to be honest with you, I'm very sorry. But jumping down light kick, that's this guy right here. This is, once again, his classic jumping light kick in most Street Fighter games. So just like most Street Fighter games, it is also cross-up. And in this, I find its main use, I find it has a very slightly better cross-up hitbox than his jumping fierce kick. So I find sometimes you can get cross-up where the jump fierce kick will miss, where the jumping down light kick will not. And in that, I find its value. So very good for short hop offense, although not as much hit stun as the jump fierce kick. So you got to work with a bit of a trade-off, but it is still pretty handy to have. Now, on that, let's go to the next one directly here. That's jumping forward light punch. Now, this would be, once again, classic. Ryu's classic jumping medium punch in most Street Fighters. And just like it, it causes a bit of a juggle state. Now, Marvel, it's a game where you get to flip out in the air, so not quite like Street Fighter, but you see here, it does launch a bit higher. And from that, you can do all sorts of things. It's actually pretty important for the main combo, corner combo B&B that I have in the companion video guide. So check out that. But, other than that, it's fairly utilitarian. Not much use for it outside of the corner, but it's neat that it's there. And the final one, which is very important to have, is jumping forward heavy kick. Now this guy here, on its own, you can say simply, it lets you do 3 heavy attacks in the air. Versus, your normal heavy punch and heavy kick, which is a spike down. So that's great in and of itself to have a 3rd heavy in the air, but it's very critical for most Tatsu loops. So Tatsu loops, which are, it's going to be this whole section here, I'm going to talk about the Hurricane Kick, but he has an arcing downwards Hurricane Kick in this game, and that's a big part of his combo structure, and that forward fierce kick is a big part of that combo structure, and thus it has its use. So next up, let's talk about special moves. I'll be talking about the Hadouken, the Shoryuken, and the Donkey Kick, and the Hurricane Kick is going to get its own section because it's that important. But first up, the Hadouken. So, it's probably the single most copied special move in all of fighting games, and if it's not that, then it's definitely the Shoryuken. In this game, it's kind of ho-hum compared to a lot of other moves, and especially, the insanity of Marvel in general. The light punch goes a bit slower, heavy punch goes a bit faster, but the one thing I'll really give it, and I'll just show you here by turning on attack data, is it does an incredible amount of damage for a simple projectile. So it's 1,000 flat, because this projectile does the same up close as it does far away. And now, that said, he does have a beam version as well, which is holding Fierce Punch. Now, for that, you see the big whole animation where he's building it up. You only need one frame of that charge. As long as you have a single frame of that charge in, where you can see that animation, he's going to get the same thing no matter what, so there's no real need to hold the whole thing. And what makes it special versus some other beams is, if you're not already aware, beams do less damage the further you are back. So first up close, it does absurd damage for a beam. That's just shy of 2,000. For a beam, that's incredibly high. Like, it's very valuable to have that damage, and he maintains it from a little further away than most beams normally would. Now, but the big thing here is that. So, it does 600 damage from full screen. That's, not incredibly high, but for a beam, it is incredibly high. Most beams are lucky to do like a little over 100 from full screen after they lose all their damage. Ryu does 600, and even if you're a little bit closer, the damage scales all the better. So he actually maintains at least some semblance of a threat from full screen with a beam. And if you're not also aware, beams generally beat most standard projectiles. So that's why you'd want to use them from full screen. So Ryu actually has some value with it, the beam version from full screen, that most characters just simply don't have. So that is a pretty good feather in his cap. And of course the move is air okay. So you can do light punch or heavy punch, and you can also do the beam charge in the air. So next up, let's talk about the Dragon Punch, the Shoryuken. So it's done by the classic Dragon Punch motion. So forward, down, down, forward, and one of your two punches. That's the light punch, so that's the heavy punch here. And see, here it goes astronomically higher. And the heavy punch also does a bit more damage. Now, what makes this move special is it, costs no bar. It's a regular move, but it's full invincible till well after it hits. And in Marvel, that's incredibly, incredibly rare to have any sort of invincibility without spending bar, especially when, after it hits. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the general gameplay, but Ryu really benefits from a partner who can tag in after Ryu does a Shoryuken and get some manner of combo. It does launch them high up, so not everyone can do it very efficiently, but anyone who can is going to benefit Ryu a lot because he's going to really abuse it. Now, that said, let's talk about the Donkey Kick. So, quarter circle forward and light kick or heavy kick. The damage is the same for both versions. The only difference here is the manner of wall bounce. So, right there, the wall bounce for the light kick version is a bit further away. And see here, the heavy kick version launches them up much higher. So, it's basically the angle. They're going to align further away with the light kick version and more of a shallow angle versus a much higher angle with the heavy kick version, and they're going to bounce a bit closer. Depending on the combo, you're going to want to use different versions. In the corner, the light kick version is more preferable because I see here, because it's more shallow, it stays where they are, versus the heavy kick. They're going to bounce clear over your head, so that's not very ideal. And if you're more mid-screen, you generally want the heavy kick version because it'll be easier to juggle afterwards. Next up, we have our super move. So first up is the Shinku Hadoken. That scores to go forward both punches. And since it's Marvel, it's a beam and not a fireball, because, Marvel has to be bigger and crazier. Now, it suffers like all beams. It does more damage up front, and the further you are back, the less damage it's going to do. Now, thankfully, for the most part, this combo structure is going to usually bring you corner to corner, so you don't have to worry about losing too much damage on the Shinku Hadoken, but, it's still unfortunate nevertheless. It is air okay, and also, if you're on the ground, you can aim up to shoot it upwards. And if you do it in the air, you can aim down to aim it downwards. So it's a bit of an angle. You cannot control it like Marvel 3. You could always arc it a bit in Marvel 3, which was pretty cool, but unfortunately can't do it in this game. But still, the fact that you control multiple angles of attack is pretty handy. Shinku Tatsumaki Senpu Kyaku is the Super Hurricane Kick, and from now on I'm just going to say Hurricane Kick. So it's then Hurricane Kick, motion, course, go back, both kicks. So of the two level 1 supers, it's actually more damaging than the Shinku Hadoken. The one thing here, if you're looking for damage, that's great, but it has severe troubles hitting people above him. So if you're doing like any kind of juggle, he can have a bit of a problem hitting above him. So in this example here, it's fine. we manage to get all our hits. But if they're any further than that up in the air, especially if, say, you're doing it from an air combo or the Tatsu loop itself, you're going to find that you're going to get a couple hits in and they're just going to fly right out of it, and that's unfortunate. But for more standard B&Bs, it's definitely the more damaging of the two options, because it does more damage than even the point-blank Shinku Hadoken. And finally, his level 3, which is the Shin Shoryuken. That's horizontal forward both kicks. And it's the classic Shin Shoryuken, not really much more to say. It's full invincible, sure, but not much range. Has a nice little animation here, the classic, you know, hit him in the gut, the chin, then knock him up. Now, it does have one unique property in that if your health is low, so let's just set our health here. If you're in the danger state, the move will do more damage. So here, also, let's turn on our damage just so we can see here. So it did 5,440 damage. Now that we're in the danger state, oh, now the animation changes. Fighting off evil Ryu. And it does about a full 1,000 more. So, you know, don't go out of your way to get hit just to see in the animation to be sure in the match. But just know that if you do have it on deck, it does all the more damage. And more damage is always a good thing. So let's talk about the Hurricane Kick. Now, in any other form of, like, all of the media he's always been presented in, he's all about the Fireball and the Dragon Punch. And he always had the Hurricane Kick, but, you know, it wasn't the biggest deal. It was definitely the least important of the three. In this game, the Hurricane Kick is the absolute most important of the three moves. And that comes in many forms, so let's just talk about it. So, the basic version on the ground here, honestly, is the least valuable. One thing here to note is the light kick version will put you into an OTG OK state. The heavy kick version knocks you airborne. But there's really no grounded follow-up after that. The aerial versions are where it's at, and specifically the new version where he has where it's quarter circle forward, not quarter circle back, and one of the two kicks here where he angles downwards. So, if we do the light kick version, and they are both cross-up OK, so that's another pretty big deal, because you can definitely get a lot of cross-up stuff after it. Versus, you know, your general one where it's just going to go clear over their head. So, the light kick version, just like on the ground, is a knockdown. So, we're going to do it here, and there we go. And knocks down just the same here. And if we're to do it in the air, let's try that one more time. It once again caused that ground bounce. So that's really good combo ender, as that will spike them down to the ground instead of just using your regular fierce kick. And if you have the angle perfectly, you can actually go fierce kick right into Corsica forward light kick, and they both connect because it'll hit because he's falling downwards before they hit the ground, and that will give you the ground bounce instead. The heavy kick version is where the real money's made. So once again, also cross up. And see here, it knocks them up in the air. So you can actually get full combos from this. And I probably should have picked someone a smidge taller just to have a bit more ease, because I'm not practicing too much. Let's try it one time. There we go. And see here, we get a whole combo from it. So that knockback is super important, just for that alone. And then when we get into like corner stuff, we need that for our Tatsu loops in the corner. So let's just show you a quick example here. So I'm not going to do the whole combo, but just to give you an idea here. So we can loop multiple ones just from that. And mid-screen as well. The heavy kick, arcing hurricane kick, gives you so much relaunch potential. You can keep looping over and over and over. In the corner, you're going to get 4 or 5. Mid-screen, usually 2 to 3 to 4, depending on what you're trying to do. But lets you just keep looping into itself over and over and over, because it gives you that slight relaunch in which you can just kind of jump and go right back into the whole thing. So it's big time combo fodder. It's very important as a cross up, because that cross up leads to full combo, and if it gets blocked, you're pretty safe. You don't really got much to worry about. It's very low risk, and it hits all the way down too. So if they're jumping, they're gonna get smacked just the same if they're on the ground. It's so utilitarian. It's easily his best move. I can't really say much more than that. It does everything Ryu wants to accomplish in this game, because the old Street Fighter game plan of doing this, waiting for them to jump, and sure you can jump. It doesn't work in Marvel, unfortunately. So we gotta do different tactics, and the arcing hurricane kick is where it's at. So let's talk a general game plan here for Ryu. So as I mentioned here, it's not Street Fighter 2. You can't just toss out the fireball and then sure you can the jump. Not gonna work that way. Marvel's too crazy for that. But what you really want to do is, get crazy right back at him. So that's why we mentioned the hurricane kicks here, because that Tatsu is absolutely absurd. It's everything Ryu has in this game. You get a cross up, get a full combo. It leads in the combo loops. Gives him a lot of corner carry that a partner can take great advantage of, or just Ryu himself. The fact that he has like basically the only beam that's worth anything from full screen in this game because of the way beam damage is nerfed from far away is pretty handy. You do it in the air too, and if you do miss an air version, absolutely tag out the cover because otherwise you'd be dead to rights. And that's another thing to mention actually. So Ryu definitely benefits from a partner who can follow up after the Shoryuken hit. So that was a poor example here, and Mega Man honestly is also probably a poor example here. I don't have any optimized combos for him, but anyone who can get that follow-up hit afterwards is going to be great because it lets Ryu just be very belligerent, just doing over and over and over, and using that invincibility to blow through anything that comes in his way. If you want to combo to it, it's definitely going to be the jab version, the heavy punch version. Maybe Doctor Strange and Thanos with the teleports can get that high up. That's maybe. I haven't personally tested, unfortunately, myself. But yeah, the more belligerent you're allowed to get, especially if you have a partner that can do a full follow-up with it, is going to be really handy, because then it's going to shut down people's offense, because they're going to be scared to even do anything. And if they're scared to do anything, then the ball's in your court, and that's half the battle won right there. Now another thing here, talking about tag system, so the old overhead, it's nothing much by itself. You can get that super follow-up if it hits, and that's fine, it's better than nothing. But one thing, as with all the old Street Fighter games, he always has that tell. You can see like his shoulder winding up before it hits, and that makes people want to stand block, even when they probably should be super jumping away. But if they're even a smidge too slow, then the chicken blocking doesn't work the same way it did in the old Marvel, so they can still get hit. So, but one of the things here is pretty handy. It's not a great all-time mix-up or anything, but it's still handy, just because it's there. You can do it, tag out, You can have your partner hit low before that hits overhead, then they can follow up, or double overhead, or whatever have you. Just the fact that you can do it, tag out. It's a 2-hitting move, so it actually covers a bit of time, hit stun wise, so your partner can do something. It's not just one and done. So that's handy, but it's just the old classic. Working with the tag system as it works. You just do it and have your partner do something else and follow up, and that's definitely more useful in the corner. If a foe is being stubborn and keeping blocking, because in the corner it's going to be much harder to jump out, and if they try to jump out, they're probably going to get the chicken block frames that don't work against ground attacks. They're going to get hit anyways, and then you can go from there. And that concludes our video for today. Ryu, as kind of detailed here, he's definitely not the most gimmicky character. He's very straightforward, and that's Ryu in a nutshell. So mission accomplished, I guess. In my personal opinion, he's definitely, on the lesser end of the tier list in Marvel. The fact that he can't do a lot of the normal wacky stuff, that hurts. It doesn't help, unfortunately. The one thing I'll give him, he actually has a really good wave dash. He can cover a lot of the screen, so that's pretty handy. But in other aspects, maybe not so much. But Ryu, he's the all-time classic. He's one of the most enduring video games of all time. He's up there with, your Marios, your Donkey Kongs, and the like. And he's going to be around for, 30 more years to come. He ain't going nowhere. And with that said, he's still really fun. I've really actually grown to love abusing the Fierce Kick air Tatsu stuff. That's actually pretty enjoyable, and the Tatsu loops are very fun to do. And I keep talking about them. If you haven't seen them, at the end of this video, you'll see a link to the companion combo guide, so check them out there. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. I hope this video found you well. Go out and play some Marvel.
We